lazy gentlemen. Let me start by saying this. Life has a way of throwing unexpected moments your way. One of those moments is when someone who has been silent suddenly reaches out. You find yourself standing at the crossroads of emotions, wondering how to respond. Patience and self-respect are two powerful qualities that are essential in every aspect of life, especially when it comes to relationships. When someone reaches out to you after a period of silence, it can stir up a multitude of emotions. You might feel confused, hurt, hopeful, or even angry all at the same time. However, in moments like this, patience and self-respect can be your guiding lights. These qualities allow you to make thoughtful decisions, protect your emotional well-being, and ultimately ensure that you are not settling for anything less than you deserve. The first step in responding to someone after they've been silent is to take a pause. This pause, however brief, is crucial because it gives you space to process your feelings and evaluate the situation. It's tempting to respond immediately, especially if you've been waiting for this moment, but quick reactions are often born out of emotion rather than reason. Patience allows you to step back and take a breath. Instead of jumping into a conversation out of a sense of urgency, you can respond when you feel ready, not driven by the pressure of the moment. When you're patient, you're also giving yourself the time to reflect on the entire situation. Silence can be a complicated thing in relationships. Sometimes it's a result of misunderstandings, unresolved conflicts, or emotional exhaustion. Other times, it could indicate a lack of commitment or even a person testing your boundaries. No matter the cause, patience gives you the chance to reflect on what this silence truly means for you. It's a moment to think about whether the relationship as it stands is something you want to rekindle or whether it was a chapter of your life that has already ended. Instead of diving back into a situation without fully understanding it, patience helps you to ask yourself, is this something I need in my life right now? Do I truly want to engage again? Self-respect plays an equally important role when navigating this situation. When someone reaches out to you after silence, there is a temptation to revert to the old dynamic and accept them back into your life without question. However, self-respect means understanding your value and not settling for anything less than what you deserve. If this person's silence caused you pain, disappointment, or confusion in the past, self-respect encourages you to not simply fall back into old patterns because it feels familiar. Instead, it asks you to consider if the relationship aligns with your worth, your values, and the life you're building for yourself. Self-respect means setting boundaries, not out of spite, but out of love and care for yourself. It's about recognizing that your emotional and mental well-being are not negotiable. If someone who has been silent has not taken the time to address why they were absent or why they left you hanging, responding immediately could open you up to more hurt or confusion down the line. Patience gives you the clarity to assess whether the other person has genuinely changed or if they are simply reaching out because they are comfortable knowing you'll be there. Moreover, patience and self-respect work together to protect you from emotional manipulation. Sometimes people may reach out after a period of silence because they expect that you will welcome them back without question. They may assume that because of the history you share or the emotional investment, you will immediately pick up where things left off. This is where self-respect becomes an armor, allowing you to protect yourself from being manipulated into accepting less than what you deserve. Just because someone is reaching out does not mean they are ready to offer you the level of respect, effort, or commitment you need. Self-respect is about understanding that your value does not fluctuate based on someone else's attention or approval. In this context, patience and self-respect also help you keep a level of emotional control, which is essential when responding. When you've been through a period of silence, emotions can run high, and it's easy to react impulsively. Responding to someone with heightened emotions, whether it's anger, frustration, or even eagerness, rarely leads to productive conversation. Patience and self-respect help you avoid knee-jerk reactions that may cause more damage than good. They give you the space to think and process your emotions before speaking or acting. This not only ensures that your response is measured and thoughtful, but it also demonstrates your emotional maturity and your understanding of your own worth. Furthermore, patience and self-respect remind you that you are worthy of love, respect, and effort in a relationship. You don't need to chase after anyone who has gone silent or left you questioning where you stand. When you respect yourself, you recognize that love and affection should be mutual, and they should come from someone who values you, your time, and your emotional energy. If the silence was caused by the other person's lack of effort, then patience and self-respect help you recognize that you do not need to beg for their attention. You deserve someone who actively chooses you every single day, not just when it's convenient for them. In the end, when someone reaches out after a period of silence, patience and self-respect give you the space to make the decision that is best for you. You don't have to rush to respond. Take your time, reflect on your feelings, ask yourself the hard questions. And don't be afraid to protect your heart. Self-respect means that you don't lower your standards or settle for less just because someone is now knocking at your door. You are not obligated to respond immediately, and you are not obligated to let someone back in just because they reached out. What matters most is that your response, whatever it may be, comes from a place of self-love, clarity, and respect for who you are and what you deserve. Self-evaluation is an essential component of navigating any relationship, particularly when faced with the situation where someone who has been silent suddenly reaches out. When that moment comes, it's easy to be overwhelmed by emotions and make snap decisions. However, taking the time to evaluate the relationship, how it was, why there was silence, and what you want moving forward ensures that your response is thoughtful, grounded, and true to your needs. Self-evaluation is the lens through which you can examine the situation objectively without being swayed solely by feelings or external pressure. The first step in self-evaluation is to acknowledge your feelings. It's completely normal to feel a mix of emotions when someone returns after being absent, especially if their absence caused you hurt or confusion. You might feel relief, frustration, anger, or even excitement about the possibility of reconnecting. However, acknowledging these feelings without allowing them to dictate your response is crucial. Self-evaluation begins with recognizing your emotional state and asking yourself why you feel the way you do. Are you eager to reconnect because of genuine affection, or are you driven by the fear of being alone? Are you hoping that this person has changed, or are you simply afraid of letting go of what you once had? Understanding your feelings will guide you in determining whether responding to the person is truly in your best interest. It helps you separate your desires from your needs, ensuring that your response is driven by what will truly serve your long-term emotional health. If the silence was painful and unresolved, then the person reaching out might stir up emotions of hope or longing. However, self-evaluation helps you ask the hard question: has anything really changed, or are you simply seeking closure on your terms? Often silence can signal a deeper issue, such as lack of communication or emotional immaturity. It's important to ask yourself if you are willing to go back to a dynamic that may not have been healthy or fulfilling for you. Self-evaluation allows you to honestly assess whether this person's reappearance is a genuine opportunity for growth or simply a temporary distraction from the reality of what the relationship was. This leads to the second critical aspect of self-evaluation: examining the patterns in the relationship. Relationships rarely exist in a vacuum. They are built on the dynamics that both people contribute. When someone reaches out after being silent, it's important to evaluate not just their actions, but also the overall pattern of behavior that led to the silence in the first place. Was this a one-time occurrence where external factors such as work, family, or personal struggles played a role in their absence? Or was it a pattern of emotional inconsistency, where you were often left wondering where you stood? This evaluation helps you determine whether the other person is truly capable of the kind of relationship you want, or if their silence was just another chapter in a larger pattern of neglect or emotional unavailability. Additionally, self-evaluation involves recognizing your role in the relationship. While it's easy to place the blame entirely on the other person for their silence, self-evaluation requires you to also look inward. Have you contributed to any of the issues in the relationship, whether through miscommunication, unmet expectations, or unhealthy attachment? This isn't about blaming yourself, but about taking responsibility for your part in the dynamic. Recognizing your role doesn't mean accepting blame for everything that went wrong, but rather acknowledging how you may have shaped the relationship. This self-awareness allows you to enter a potential conversation with the other person from a place of growth rather than defensiveness or regret. You can approach the situation more clearly, knowing what you need to work on for the future, whether that means communicating better, establishing firmer boundaries, or seeking a healthier relationship dynamic. Evaluating whether the silence was a red flag or an opportunity for growth is another crucial aspect of self-reflection. Silence in relationships can signal different things. It could mean space for personal reflection, a break from an intense dynamic, or unfortunately, emotional withdrawal. The key is determining whether that silence was a time of personal growth or a sign of deeper issues that remain unresolved. If the other person has not communicated the reason for their silence or taken responsibility for it, then silence might simply be avoidance. In such cases, reaching out to reinitiate communication can be a pattern of emotional avoidance rather than a sign of personal growth or readiness for a healthier relationship. You also need to evaluate the expectations you're placing on the situation. Often, people who've been silent return with an expectation that things will pick up where they left off. This assumption can lead to confusion, unmet expectations, and emotional distress. Self-evaluation allows you to be realistic about your expectations and ensure that they align with the reality of the situation. Are you expecting the same person who ghosted you to come back fully changed and ready to invest in a relationship? Or do you see the situation clearly for what it is? an opportunity to either work through past issues or move forward in a different direction. Your expectations shape how you'll react and ultimately how you'll feel afterward. In sum, self-evaluation in this context is a comprehensive, multi-layered process. It requires you to reflect not just on the situation at hand, but on the relationship as a whole, the patterns, the emotional dynamics, the changes, and the reasons behind the silence. It allows you to understand not only what you want, but what you need from the relationship, and whether this reemergence aligns with your long-term emotional well-being. Without this level of introspection, your decisions may be impulsive or reactionary based solely on what you hope the outcome could be, rather than what is truly in your best interest. The importance of clarity of intentions cannot be overstated when someone reaches out after a period of silence. Often, in the rush of emotions, we may overlook the need for clear communication, but this is precisely what will shape the future of the relationship. If you are to respond to this person, whether you choose to reconnect or not, it is vital to ensure that your intentions, both yours and theirs, are explicitly communicated. Without this clarity, both parties may end up confused or misaligned in expectations, leading to more emotional strain rather than resolution. Clear communication allows both individuals to understand the purpose of the outreach and what they want moving forward. It ensures that there are no mixed signals, no misunderstandings, and no unwarranted assumptions about where the relationship is headed. Without clarity of intentions, there's a high risk of repeating past mistakes or falling back into unhealthy patterns. So whether you're open to reconnecting, need closure, or are simply not ready to revisit the relationship, making sure that your intentions are clearly expressed ensures that both parties understand what's at stake. Emotional control is often one of the most difficult skills to master when faced with situations that trigger strong feelings, especially in relationships. When someone who has been silent suddenly reaches out to you, the emotional response can be overwhelming. The silence itself may have caused confusion, hurt, or even a sense of abandonment. And now, with their return, your emotions can swing from anger to hope, from frustration to excitement. However, responding impulsively or out of intense emotion can often lead to regret and miscommunication. Learning to control your emotions in this situation is crucial for maintaining clarity, ensuring that your response aligns with your true desires, and protecting your emotional well-being in the long run. The first step in emotional control is acknowledging and naming your feelings. When you receive that unexpected message, you may feel the urge to react immediately. Before doing so, take a moment to check in with yourself. What emotions are surfacing? Are you feeling hurt, betrayed, or relieved? Are you excited about the potential of reconnecting, or are you filled with anger and resentment? Naming your emotions gives you the opportunity to step back and separate your feelings from your response. By acknowledging what you are feeling without judgment, you give yourself the space to respond thoughtfully, not out of reaction. This moment of emotional awareness can be transformative. It helps you pause and put distance between your immediate impulses and your final response. Once you've acknowledged your emotions, emotional control allows you to separate your past experiences from your present reaction. Silence from someone can often trigger old wounds, reminding you of past hurts or unresolved issues. It's easy to assume that the past will repeat itself, and that can cause your emotions to cloud your judgment. However, emotional control means being aware that just because you've been hurt before doesn't mean you will be hurt again in the same way. The situation you're facing now may be different, and you can't allow the past to dictate how you approach this new moment. It's essential to detach your emotional history from the present situation and approach the person's outreach with a clear mind. Emotional control helps you process the past without allowing it to dictate how you feel in the moment. Furthermore, emotional control helps you avoid falling into the trap of responding out of desperation or fear. When someone reaches out after being silent, there may be a desire to quickly fix things, to fill the void of silence, or to avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. This desire can lead to impulsive actions or responses that aren't in line with your true feelings. For instance, if you feel lonely or fearful of rejection, you might be tempted to respond in a way that accommodates the other person, even if you're not entirely sure if you want to reconnect. However, emotional control allows you to pause and recognize these urges for what they are: temporary emotions driven by the desire to avoid discomfort or vulnerability. Instead of responding from a place of fear or loneliness, you can take a moment to reflect on what you truly want. Emotional control empowers you to make decisions from a place of self-awareness rather than from a knee-jerk reaction to a temporary feeling. The practice of emotional control also involves understanding that not every situation requires an immediate response. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to feel the pressure to answer a text, call, or message right away. However, emotional control teaches you that there's no rush. The message you've received, the person reaching out to you, is not a demand for your immediate attention or response. You don't have to act out of urgency. In fact, waiting gives you the time to cool off, think things through, and decide how you want to approach the situation. Emotional control gives you the freedom to slow down, not react out of panic, and take your time to craft a response that aligns with your true intention. Moreover, emotional control is also about managing the intensity of your feelings in the face of an uncertain future. When someone reaches out after silence, your mind may race with questions. What does this mean? Are they back for good? Are they just testing the waters? These questions can lead to heightened emotions and cause you to make decisions based on speculation. However, emotional control requires that you temper these feelings and avoid jumping to conclusions. Instead of allowing your emotions to dictate your assumptions, you can approach the situation with curiosity and a willingness to communicate openly. By doing so, you can create a space for honest dialogue without letting your emotions take control of the conversation. Furthermore, emotional control helps you maintain your boundaries. When emotions are heightened, it's easy to overlook the need for personal boundaries, whether they're emotional, mental, or physical. You may find yourself tempted to open up or give more of yourself than you feel comfortable with, simply because the other person has made contact. However, emotional control allows you to stay grounded in your values and boundaries. You don't have to let someone's reappearance disrupt your sense of self or your emotional health. By maintaining control, you ensure that you don't sacrifice your well-being for the sake of reestablishing a connection. Emotional control helps you honor your needs and your space, even when the temptation to reconnect or seek closure is strong. Learning to manage your emotions effectively not only helps you in this specific situation, but also contributes to your overall emotional resilience. It strengthens your ability to handle future challenges in relationships, allowing you to respond in a way that is constructive, thoughtful, and self-respect. Emotional control isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending that you don't care. Rather, it's about recognizing your feelings, understanding their source, and choosing how to act based on what is best for your emotional health. In relationships, especially in moments of uncertainty like this one, emotional control empowers you to take back control of the situation. It allows you to protect yourself from emotional upheaval and make decisions that are true to your own needs and desires. The ability to pause, reflect, and choose how to respond is one of the most valuable tools you have in navigating relationships with clarity and confidence. Another crucial aspect of navigating this situation when someone reaches out after silence is not settling for less than you deserve. It's easy to fall back into old patterns of behavior, especially when someone who once held significance in your life reappears. There may be a temptation to overlook past issues or to accept less than what you know you deserve, simply because the person is now reaching out to you. However, it's important to recognize that you don't have to accept any behavior that does not meet your standards for respect, honesty, and effort in a relationship. This is where not settling for less becomes a form of self-respect. You don't have to accept a situation that is beneath your standards just because someone has reappeared. It's essential to be clear about what you need from the relationship and not allow your desire for connection to cloud your judgment. If this person is not able to meet those needs, then their return may not be worth pursuing. Settling for less than you deserve only perpetuates unhealthy dynamics and can lead to further emotional pain in the future. Trust your instincts when responding to someone who reaches out after a period of silence. Instincts are often seen as the silent guidance system within us, directing us toward what feels right or wrong in any given moment. When someone who has been absent returns, it can stir up a host of emotions and uncertainties. This is when trusting your gut can become your most powerful tool. Your intuition knows when something doesn't feel quite right or when someone's intentions are not aligned with yours. It is crucial in this moment to pause and tune into that inner voice that often holds the key to making a decision that serves your emotional well-being. Often we dismiss our instincts in favor of logical reasoning or societal expectations. However, when it comes to relationships, logic doesn't always offer the most reliable guidance, as emotions are complex and nuanced. For example, you may feel a strong urge to reconnect with someone because the heart wants what it wants, but deep down, your gut might be telling you that something is off. It may be tempting to brush aside that feeling, thinking it's just temporary discomfort or fear of confrontation. But ignoring your instincts could lead to getting caught up in a situation that's emotionally draining or unhealthy. The power of trusting your instincts is that it aligns with your sense of self-awareness and self-preservation. Your gut tells you when boundaries are being tested, when patterns from the past are likely to repeat themselves, or when someone's intentions are less than sincere. If someone reaches out to you after a period of silence and your gut tells you that their actions are more about convenience for them than genuine care for you, listening to that voice will prevent you from falling into an emotional trap. Trusting your instincts is an act of self-protection. It helps you maintain clarity and not get swept up in the emotional roller coaster that can come with someone's reappearance in your life. Moreover, trusting your instincts is a form of respecting your own emotional boundaries. When you take a step back and tune into how you truly feel, you can discern whether reconnecting is a healthy decision for you. This inner compass can guide you in setting firm emotional boundaries, protecting yourself from being hurt again. If your intuition tells you that this person hasn't truly changed or hasn't worked through their past behavior, you don't have to second guess that feeling. Your instincts are telling you to hold your ground and not allow past patterns of behavior to resurface. This is the strength of trusting yourself. It ensures you don't compromise your emotional health for the sake of reconnecting. At times, silence can be misinterpreted, and this misunderstanding often clouds judgment. When someone has been silent and then suddenly reaches out, there may be a part of you that wonders why they've been absent and whether they truly care. The truth is, silence can mean many different things. It could be that the person was dealing with personal challenges or needed space to reflect on the relationship. However, silence can also be a sign of emotional neglect, inconsistency, or avoidance. The key to understanding their silence lies in how you interpret it. And this is where emotional intelligence and self-awareness play a significant role. Emotional intelligence allows you to reflect on how the silence made you feel and why. Did their absence hurt you? Did it leave you feeling abandoned or confused? Or did you find some relief in the space they created? The emotional clarity you gain from understanding how their silence affected you will influence how you approach the situation when they reach out. Without this reflection, there's a risk of jumping into the conversation based on assumptions rather than understanding. The way someone treats you during their silence is often more revealing than the silence itself. If they didn't reach out to explain their absence or address the issues that caused the silence, that lack of accountability may reflect their emotional maturity or commitment level. When they return, it's essential to assess whether they've made the effort to address what happened or if they're expecting you to simply accept them back without any real change or resolution. Emotional intelligence will help you discern whether their silence was simply a temporary break or if it signals a deeper pattern of avoidance. If they return without acknowledging how their silence affected you or without offering an explanation, it might be an indication that they are not fully invested in resolving issues or growing in the relationship. Self-awareness also plays a crucial role in understanding whether their return aligns with your emotional needs. If you've worked through past hurts or moved on from the relationship during their absence, their reaching out could disrupt the progress you've made. On the other hand, if you've missed them and feel that the relationship has potential, your emotional intelligence will help you approach their return with a clear sense of what you need from them moving forward. Emotional clarity will allow you to be open to the possibility of reconciliation if it aligns with your personal growth, while also protecting you from rushing into something that doesn't serve you. One of the critical aspects of responding to someone after silence is understanding that closure doesn't always come from the other person. When someone has been silent, you might find yourself yearning for answers or closure, thinking that their return will somehow provide you with the clarity you've been seeking. However, closure is often an internal process that you must navigate for yourself. While it's natural to want explanations or apologies, sometimes those things are not forthcoming, and that's where you need to find the closure within yourself. Relying on someone else to give you closure can be emotionally draining, especially if they do not acknowledge the hurt they've caused, or are unwilling to offer the answers you're seeking. True closure comes from understanding that your emotional well-being is not dependent on someone else's actions or words. It's a realization that your healing process and growth can happen independently of whether or not they provide the answers you want. This shift in perspective allows you to take responsibility for your own emotional healing, regardless of the situation. When you realize that closure comes from within, you free yourself from the emotional weight of waiting for someone to make things right. You learn that you have the power to let go and move forward without needing the other person's involvement in your journey. In many ways, closure is about accepting the situation for what it is and choosing to release any expectations of the other person's response. It means recognizing that you are worthy of respect, understanding, and clarity, but that these things may not always come from external sources. Closure is an act of self-empowerment. It allows you to reclaim your emotional peace, whether or not the other person is willing to meet your needs. Finally, when someone who has been silent reaches out, it's essential to recognize that their return is not a reflection of your worth or your need for validation. People often return to relationships for their own reasons, whether out of loneliness, convenience, or the desire to reopen a chapter in their lives. While their return may feel validating or exciting, it's important to remember that your value does not depend on their acknowledgement or presence. The desire for validation is natural, but it's crucial to rely on your own self-worth and not base your response on seeking approval from someone who has previously withdrawn from your life. One of the most crucial steps in responding when someone reaches out after a period of silence is to manage your expectations. Expectations are powerful. They shape how we perceive situations and influence the way we react to them. When someone who has been silent suddenly makes contact, it's natural to feel a surge of hope, wondering if this is the start of something new or a chance to resolve old issues. However, it's important to manage these expectations to avoid disappointment or further emotional distress. When we set our hopes too high or allow ourselves to become overly attached to a particular outcome, we set ourselves up for emotional pain if things don't go as planned. Managing expectations begins with understanding that the situation may not unfold the way you imagine it. Just because someone reaches out doesn't mean they are ready for the same kind of relationship or emotional connection you are hoping for. It's essential to be realistic and recognize that the person's reappearance might not signal a long-term change in their behavior or their level of commitment. Perhaps they have a genuine desire to reconnect, or perhaps they're simply looking for comfort or closure on their own terms, without any intention of engaging in a deeper or more committed relationship. The key is to avoid assuming that their message means more than it actually does, and to refrain from projecting your desires onto them. In addition to managing your expectations of the other person, it's also important to evaluate what you expect from the situation as a whole. What do you hope to gain from this interaction? Are you seeking closure, reconciliation, or simply a resolution to lingering questions? Being clear with yourself about your own motivations helps you understand why you feel compelled to respond and whether it's in your best interest to do so. By managing your expectations, you can enter the conversation with a balanced perspective without setting yourself up for hurt if things don't turn out the way you hoped. It also helps you approach the situation with a sense of control and empowerment, knowing that you are making a conscious decision rather than being driven solely by emotion. Another important aspect of responding after silence is setting clear boundaries. Silence in a relationship often leads to confusion, and when that person reaches out again, it can feel overwhelming or even intrusive. It's easy to forget about personal boundaries in the heat of the moment, especially if you've missed the person or long for answers. However, having clear boundaries in place is essential to maintaining emotional well-being and ensuring that any interaction remains respectful and healthy. Without boundaries, you risk falling back into old patterns, allowing the person to re-enter your life without acknowledging the issues that led to their absence. Setting boundaries means understanding and articulating your limits. Do you feel comfortable reopening communication with this person? Are you willing to revisit past issues, or would you prefer to focus on the future? Setting boundaries ensures that you don't allow the other person to take advantage of your emotional space or manipulate your feelings. It's important to express your needs in a calm and assertive way, making it clear what you are willing to accept in the relationship and what you are not. If you feel that their return doesn't align with your needs or emotional health, setting a boundary might mean limiting contact or, in some cases, choosing not to engage with them at all. Having clear boundaries also involves understanding what you need in order to feel safe and secure in your interactions. For example, if you're willing to talk to the person but need them to acknowledge the hurt they cause or take responsibility for their silence, this should be clearly communicated. If the person isn't willing to respect those boundaries or meet your needs, then it's up to you to decide whether it's worth continuing the conversation or distancing yourself. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and they help you protect your emotional space while still allowing room for potential reconciliation or closure if that's what you ultimately want. Another key point in responding to someone who has been silent is to avoid seeking validation from them. When someone reaches out after a long period of silence, it can stir up feelings of rejection or worthlessness, especially if their absence made you feel unimportant. In these moments, it's easy to seek validation from their return, as if their outreach somehow confirms your worth or the importance of the relationship. However, relying on someone else's actions for validation is dangerous. It's essential to remember that your worth is not defined by how someone treats you or whether they choose to be in your life. Seeking validation from someone who has been silent can lead to an unhealthy dynamic in which you place your self-esteem and emotional security in their hands. Instead, focus on building your own sense of self-worth and emotional independence. The goal is not to let their presence or absence dictate how you feel about yourself. When you stop seeking validation from others, you free yourself from the need for approval and can make decisions based on your own values and needs rather than on external validation. By shifting your focus inward, you also become more attuned to what you truly need in a relationship. Are you seeking someone who will consistently show up for you, or are you simply looking to fill a void? When you rely on your own sense of self-worth, you are better able to recognize whether this person's return aligns with your emotional needs or if it is merely a temporary fix for loneliness or insecurity. Seeking validation from within gives you the clarity to make decisions that reflect your true desires and values rather than basing your actions on the desire for external approval. A critical component of responding to someone after silence is learning to trust the timing of your response. When someone reaches out to you after a period of absence, there may be an internal pressure to respond immediately. However, taking the time to pause and reflect before responding is crucial. Responding impulsively may result in saying something you regret or making a decision that isn't in your best interest. By taking a step back, you allow yourself the space to think through the situation carefully and determine how you truly want to engage with the other person. Trusting the timing of your response also involves understanding that not every situation requires an immediate answer. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to feel like you need to reply quickly, but doing so may rob you of the opportunity to consider your feelings, assess the situation, and decide on the best course of action. Finally, learning to trust the timing of your response helps you avoid the danger of being controlled by the emotions that the other person's message may trigger. Their outreach might stir up feelings of longing, anger, or confusion, but by waiting before you respond, you take back control of the situation. You no longer let the emotions of the moment dictate your actions, but instead, you respond from a place of clarity and confidence. This sense of control over your own emotions is empowering, and it allows you to navigate the situation with a calm and measured approach. One of the most vital aspects of responding when someone reaches out after silence is being honest with yourself. You may find yourself wanting to jump back into a relationship with this person, but it's crucial to be honest about your true feelings and motivations. Do you genuinely want to reconnect with them, or are you hoping for closure or emotional validation? Are you willing to overlook past hurt for the sake of reconciliation? Or do you need more time to heal before engaging with them again? Being honest with yourself allows you to make decisions that are in line with your emotional needs and well-being. This self-awareness is essential in ensuring that you don't settle for less than you deserve, and that you are making choices that reflect your true desire. When someone reaches out after a period of silence, one of the most essential things to keep in mind is the importance of self-reflection. Silence in relationships often leads to confusion, misunderstandings, and emotional turmoil. When the person who has been silent reappears, it's vital to take a moment to reflect on how this silence has affected you and what you truly want moving forward. Self-reflection helps you understand your own emotional state, ensuring that your response is based on what's best for you rather than acting impulsively based on the emotions triggered by their sudden reappearance. During this period of reflection, you should ask yourself several important questions. How did their silence make you feel? Did it hurt you, cause confusion, or create a sense of abandonment? Or did it offer you the space to grow and heal? This moment of reflection allows you to be honest with yourself about the emotional impact their absence had on you. Understanding your feelings is the first step toward figuring out how to respond. Without this clarity, you may be at risk of responding in a way that doesn't serve your true needs or emotional health. Self-reflection also involves considering what you need from this situation. Do you desire closure? Are you looking for an apology or an explanation? Or do you want to know if they've truly changed and if the relationship can be rebuilt? The more you understand your needs, the better equipped you'll be to respond in a way that aligns with your emotional well-being. You may even realize that reconnecting with this person may not be in your best interest, or that you need more time to process your feelings. In any case, the time spent reflecting on your emotions and desires ensures that you can make a decision that is right for you rather than being swayed by external factors or momentary impulses. One of the most powerful responses to someone who has been silent is practicing emotional detachment. When someone has been absent from your life and suddenly reaches out, it's easy to fall into old patterns of behavior, hoping to reconnect or resolve unresolved issues. However, emotional detachment is an essential tool that allows you to view the situation from a more balanced perspective. Detaching emotionally doesn't mean you don't care or that you are cold-hearted. It simply means that you are choosing to respond from a place of logic and clarity rather than allowing your emotions to dictate your actions. Emotional detachment means separating your emotions from the other person's actions. It means taking a step back from the emotional chaos that can arise when someone reappears and instead choosing to approach the situation with calmness and self-control. This emotional distance allows you to evaluate whether reconnecting with the person aligns with your emotional needs and whether their return is genuinely in your best interest. By detaching, you create a space where you can make decisions based on self-respect and emotional health, rather than being overwhelmed by nostalgia, longing, or the desire to avoid discomfort. Equally important when responding to someone after silence is maintaining a healthy sense of self-worth. It can be tempting to look for validation in the form of an apology, explanation, or recognition when someone reaches out after a period of absence. However, relying on external validation to feel good about yourself is an emotional trap. Your worth should not be dependent on the actions or words of another person, particularly someone who has previously withdrawn from your life. When someone reaches out, it can be easy to fall into the mindset that their attention or acknowledgement will somehow complete you or make you feel better about yourself. However, true self-worth comes from within. It's about recognizing that your value does not fluctuate based on another person's presence or absence in your life. Reclaiming your sense of self-worth means not allowing the actions of others to dictate how you feel about yourself. It means being grounded in your own identity, knowing that you are deserving of love, respect, and understanding, regardless of whether this person chooses to be a part of your life or not. Focusing on your self-worth also allows you to set healthy boundaries. If someone reaches out and their actions or behavior do not align with your needs or your values, you can stand firm in your sense of self-worth and make the decision to protect yourself. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, and they prevent you from being swept up in situations that are emotionally harmful and fulfilling. Another essential aspect of responding to someone after silence is understanding the power of communication. Communication is the foundation of any relationship, and when someone who has been silent reaches out, it is an opportunity for dialogue, whether that's to clear the air, gain closure, or simply establish what you both want moving forward. However, it's crucial that this communication is open, honest, and respectful. Before you respond, take some time to think about what you want to communicate. Do you have unresolved issues or questions that you want addressed? Are there things that have been left unsaid that are important for your emotional clarity? This is your chance to express your feelings, but it's important to approach the conversation with a mindset that encourages honest and constructive communication. This isn't the time to rehash past grievances or attack the other person. It's about speaking your truth in a way that promotes understanding rather than conflict. In addition, remember that communication is a two-way street. Be open to listening to what the other person has to say, but only if they are willing to engage with you in a genuine and accountable way. If they are reaching out after a period of silence, they should be prepared to explain their absence and take responsibility for their actions. If the conversation is one-sided or if they are not forthcoming with answers or explanations, it may be a sign that they are not truly invested in resolving the situation or in building a healthy connection. Understanding that the quality of communication matters just as much as the content is another key consideration. Clear, empathetic communication fosters an environment of mutual respect, while defensive, unclear communication can lead to further misunderstanding and emotional turmoil. Make sure that the conversation remains respectful, clear, and focused on resolving any lingering issues in a productive way. Another important consideration is the need for patience. Silence from someone often leaves us feeling uncertain, wondering about their reasons for withdrawing or when they'll finally open up. However, when they return, it's essential to recognize that healing or resolution cannot be rushed. Patience is key in allowing the space for both parties to process their feelings and figure out the best way forward. Sometimes the best response is to take your time. Don't feel pressured to resolve everything immediately or to jump into a decision about the future of the relationship. Give yourself the time and space to think, process, and reflect on what you truly want. When emotions run high, it's easy to make hasty decisions that you may later regret. By practicing patience, you allow both yourself and the other person the time to heal, communicate, and decide how to move forward without being rushed or overwhelmed. Lastly, it's important to understand that not all silences are the same, and not all returns have the same intentions. Silence may have been necessary for personal growth, reflection, or emotional healing, but it can also be a way to avoid responsibility or delay addressing important issues. It's vital to recognize the difference and assess the person's true intentions when they reach out. If they are genuine in their desire to reconnect and willing to put in the effort to address the past and move forward with maturity, then there may be a chance for reconciliation. However, if their outreach is more about convenience or using you as a temporary emotional crutch, it's important to recognize this and protect yourself from falling back into unhealthy patterns. Our situation is unique, and responding to someone after silence requires a careful balance of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and honest communication. Recognizing your own worth, setting boundaries, and understanding your true desires are crucial to making an informed decision about how to proceed.